Well, children, any questions for Postmaster Bill?
You ever gone on a killing spree?
No. The day of the gun-toting disgruntled postman shooting up the place went out with the Macarena.
Hey everybody, welcome back to What the Hell Happened to Them? Jack Attacks the Cast. That's right, this season, Jack Nicholson. I am your host, Patrick Skeyhill, and joining me on the line is a delicious bar of Joe Blarone, Joe Vekeman.
Yummy.
You can't say yummy about yourself. That's weird.
But it's basically what you're saying is I'm a Toblerone. I would say yummy, right?
Oh, I don't. You know what? I don't know.
I don't know either, but you said it, so I'm just kind of going with it.
Well, you know who does know? Levin Rensselaer, reminding me to remind you that you can email the cast at whathappenedtothem@gmail.com. And our sponsor this week is Goo.
Goo.
That's all the copy says. Just Goo. I don't have a URL or
a strange one to be sponsoring
what
this
the product
week.
is. Just Goo. Just Goo, Lev? Just Goo. All right. Well, what movie is Goo sponsoring this week?
This week, Goo is sponsoring The Postman Always Rings Twice, the remake.
The remake, yes, from the 1946 movie. All right, well, what happens in this movie? Presumably similar to the first one?
Oh, sure, yeah. The sensuous wife of a lunch wagon proprietor and a rootless drifter begin a sordidly steamy affair and conspire to murder her Greek husband.
Lunch wagon seems a little unfair to say.
Lunch wagon proprietor.
Yeah, I know he's proprietor, but it's just an actual restaurant. There's no wagon to it.
Yeah.
Like it is a restaurant. The wagon's not there. It's not wagoning it anywhere.
Great Depression talk?
Maybe. That could be true. I wasn't around then.
That's when this takes place.
Despite popular opinions. I don't know. Well, It's a movie that asks the tough question, like, what if Jack Nicholson were in the movie Labor Day?
Jesus fucking Christ. He'd have to make a pretty nice pie. You know what? I think he should have.
Yeah, he's just like covering her face in dough. And I'm like, I'm watching the trailer to Labor Day right now. As he, rapes her, and she's kind of into it.
Yeah.
Which I guess technically isn't rape anymore, but it was a weird way to begin the... And then I started thinking, this has been happening in a lot of his movies.
Yeah.
Either the woman doesn't like him, and then suddenly they do for no reason, or they don't like him, and so he abuses them, and then they like him. It's just kind of kept happening here.
Yeah, he's kind of a salty dog.
I know he's got his off-screen stuff that maybe makes him an actor good at taking these kinds of roles. But what I'm confused is, why do these movies kept getting written like this? Why? Surprise, surprise, movie doesn't pass the Bechdel test.
Who'd she talk to?
Didn't have any female friends, apparently.
No, and the one other female that's in this is the person that Jack cheats on her with.
Is that his wife?
That's Angelica Houston.
Yeah,
that's not
okay.
his wife. Yeah, they were together.
They were never married?
They were never married.
I thought he was married to her. All right.
No, Jack never married.
Is her father in this movie? Did I see him for like 5 seconds?
John?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
When the two lawyers are duking it out in what I found to be a surprisingly compelling scene, was his father the one that like came in and was like, "Listen, I'll pay you $10,000 if you just settle this for $10,000 so they don't sue me for $25,000." Was he that guy?
John, I don't see John Huston in here.
It kind of looked like him. Didn't sound like him, but it kind of looked like him.
Did you see Christopher Lloyd?
Of course, I saw Christopher Lloyd. I actually heard him before I saw him because he's so far back in the frame. Yeah, is that the elephant in the room? Are they just actually pals and just Jack's like throwing him a bone?
Has to be, right? He's on Taxi though now, right?
Not well, probably not at the time of filming, but at the time of screening, yes, he would be.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, he abandoned Jack and just drove straight to the set of Taxi and said, "I'm here, everybody. Give me a full-time role."
Yeah, he's the only one that has been
He's been in like 3 out of the last 4 films. Like
and it's gonna keep happening.
Sweet,
right?
They've got to be pals.
They've got
to
pals.
be. You got a weekend? Come do this half a scene. He left and I'm like, I don't think he's coming back, is he?
Another Bob Rafelson.
Yes, I didn't know that until the very end, but it was competently directed. No, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if it says it in the beginning. I just didn't notice it until the end.
I saw it from my letterbox.
Okay. Well, I don't go in advance, Joe. I just let the movie happen.
Yes. Did you see who wrote this movie?
Oh, David Mamet.
Yeah, his first screenplay.
Oh, his first one. Yeah, it kind of shows. Listen, it's
just gonna take someone down right away.
I want to be clear.
It shows.
I want to be very clear.
No holds barred.
It's not that the screenplay is bad per se. Mamet is known for the rhythms of his speech patterns. So none of that's in here. Mm-hmm. What I like about doing this movie immediately after The Shining is you see both ends of the adaptation spectrum, where one movie doesn't really give a shit about the source material. Awesome movie. The other movie, I argue, too faithful to the source material. That's why I'm sort of digging at Mamet here, is I think a later Mamet is perfectly fine deviating more from the source material. Because you're seeing, right, Joe, you had always said in the pre-show, you don't much care for this movie. I think this movie has a lot of problems. And I think it's just too much like the book. It's too much like the book. It's too busy. There's 6 different movies we get in here. I think any one of them could be interesting if we had more time to explore them. Even like some theoretical prequel movie about why Jessica Lange, how does she get with this Greek guy? How? Like how could that like that itself could be an interesting story. The Postman always rings once, this prequel thing. What is it?
God, Hollywood has now killed you. The Postman always rings once? That's terrible. What? I'm calling you out on that.
That's fair. Yeah, like any one of those would have been neat. When you cram them all together, now I have too much plot, and I don't get enough time to care for these people. They're just like suddenly they're in a relationship after he rapes her, and I go, all right, that's odd. Some of these murder things, the trial thing, the betrayal thing, it all moves way too quickly, which one takes away a lot of the character time you have, which is what the real juice, the meat. 2, a lot of it feels really silly when we're just speeding through it. Do they just own a lion now at the end of this film?
A lion?
Yeah, a lion. Do they just have a lion now? Right? Angelica Houston drops off a lion, and then we see it in a cage, and then the ending of the movie happens.
How does it end? Refresh me.
Let me refresh you.
And I watched this like 3-4 days ago.
Can you already forgot the ending?
Yeah.
The ending is where the postman is ringing twice.
Oh, bullshit. No Postman rings twice in this.
Well, there's no postman. Well, actually is a very brief image of a postman dropping off mail to her after her cafe becomes successful, after she murders her husband and gets away with it. And it becomes a tourist trap where everybody wants to see the husband murderer. Yeah,
I remember the whole thing with the lawyer, like he's trying to get them... Michael Lerner, Cohen's favorite, the Coen brothers' favorite. He comes in, he's the lawyer. He just twists his words so much that he's like he makes me believe that they're gonna get out free. I'm like, how is this guy pulling this off?
He's good wifing all over the place here. I'm down. He's pitting the insurance people against each other. I'm like, yes, give me more of it. And then immediately it's over, and I went, ah.
Yeah, it was like 15 minutes, but I really liked that stuff.
Yeah, that could have been a cool movie. There were a lot of cool movies in here. I didn't want them all smushed together. We got the entire phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in one film here.
Fucking hell. I liked the tension where they were trying to take him out, I think it was the husband out the first time. And so Jack's kind of waiting, and then the cop comes by and he's like, hey, what you doing over here? And then he's just like, and then the cop's like, it's a nice sign, right? This is a nice sign over here. And then the cop goes away, and then immediately after the cop goes away, like there's this big electrical out, and then you find out the cat electrocuted himself.
Yeah, and the cop's just like, looks like you got a dead cat problem, and like just throws the cat at Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, they don't even like suspect him at all. They're like, oh, why would he ever want to do this?
They suspect him a little bit, but then he finds the cat, and he's like, all right, I'm a dumb cop. Here's a cat.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, it helps that the guy is just like, look at Jack Nicholson, the man who saved my life. That kind of shuts him up after that. But let me say, I did also see the original film.
Yes, tell me about that one.
The cop in that film, aggressively sad that the cat died.
Oh.
And the scene where he finds the dead cat goes on and on about how sad he is the cat's dead. And then he shows up later in the film, still talking about how sad he is that the cat is dead. 20 minutes later, I've long forgotten the cat has died. The cop comes in and goes, damn shame about that cat. May I also say, what is her name in the movie we saw? Cora Papadakis.
What a great name, yes.
Let me tell you, all the Greekness gone in the original film. Totally stripped. To the point where her name becomes Cora Smith.
Yeah, I saw that.
I didn't register it at first. They skipped a lot of the Greek stuff. He didn't have the accent. They didn't do like the welcome home party. And then suddenly I heard, Cora Smith on trial. And I went, what, is Smith? Was that her maiden name? And then I looked it up and I go, no, his name is Smith too. You cowards. You xenophobic bastards in 1946.
Yeah, that's very
it's
strange.
all gone. And then in traditional, noir 40s fashion, the woman is totally at fault. She's like, what if we killed him? Wouldn't that be? And he's like, well, I don't think we can do that. And I know there's some of that in this movie, so I imagine it's in the novel from the 30s. But it feels a lot more even-handed, and they both kind of regret it at different points. Less so in the old movie. I only watched this version, but there are in fact a bazillion versions of this film from around the world.
Okay. Thank you. So, this is the fourth adaptation of the novel. The first was French.
There's 2 French ones. There's 2 Italian ones. There's a German one. There's a Hungarian one written by Bellatar.
Oh, well, the second one's Italian, called Obsession, from 1943. And then the third is in English, and that was from 1946. And those were all in black and white, and this is the first one in color.
Yeah, there's a Brazilian one. There's a second French one, like I said. Then I think that's it. Then you get weird ones. There's like an opera. There's like radio things, stage plays. The Hungarian one. There's a Malaysian one. There's a Chinese one. The German one that didn't do super well.
Yeah.
There's a Russian one, though that might be a play too. This novel was very, very popular when it came out and is still highly regarded, despite that it was banned in Boston.
What?
Boston banned the novel when it came out. Do you know why?
I don't know why.
Too sexy.
It's so funny. It's
Such a Boston thing to do. That was also part of why the book was so popular. It was the 50 Shades of Grey of its time.
Oh, God.
Just turning on board housewives everywhere.
It's a weird fantasy. Listen to this, though. So, Jack Nicholson was 43 when he made this film, and Jessica Lange was 31. In James M. Cain's novel, Frank Chambers' character is 32, and Cora Papadakis is 21. So, they should be a little more over their head.
That kind of comes across in the 46 version. Nah, not really. I guess her youth really comes across. Then here, she feels a lot more world-weary, so the backstory is a little more interesting. In the old movie, it's just like, the backstory is really weird. She's like, I was just so attractive early on in my life that men just wouldn't leave me alone. So eventually, I just married this guy because he was wealthy, and then men would leave me alone. But I never loved him, and he knew that. And I don't know if I needed all this explanation. This doesn't sound great.
So I want to go let me go on this for a little bit. So these are all the actresses that were offered the role of Cora, but
Susan
they all turned
Sarandon.
it down. I don't see it. Ready for this? Karen Allen, Candice Bergen, Bo Derek, Morgan Fairchild, Barbara Hershey, Diane Keaton, Christine Lottie, Sandra Locke, Mary McDonnell, Helen Mirren, Jennifer O'Neill. Oh, God. Fuck, I just saw it. Susan Sarandon, Sybil Shepherd, and Sissy Spacek were all offered the role.
They all turned it down?
They turned it down.
Was the budget very small on this film?
No, probably it was just too much, you know?
Too much. It's a lot of
much
emotional work they'd have to do.
No.
This feels like an Oscar baity movie. I'm just surprised so many women are turning it down.
Yeah, well, Meryl Streep rejected the part. She didn't turn it down.
She didn't even turn it down.
It.
She went, "This sucks."
Kim Basinger tested for the role, but she did not get it.
Wow. That would have been awesome casting.
You don't like Jessica Lange?
No, I just think, I don't know, femme fatale, Kim Basinger, sexual thriller. Like, boom. You nailed it.
Yeah, right at the beginning of the 80s, too.
Yeah.
She was probably really young, though,
yeah,
right?
maybe it was like didn't test well with Jack. Like, the chemistry read was too weird because he was twice her age.
She would have been 28, so she would have been 3 years younger.
She's older than I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that would have been fine. I'm not sure why then. I mean, not that Jessica Lange did a bad job. It just maybe they wanted some of that innocence so that she wasn't like the 1946 version. It's a little more even-handed in their culpability.
Yeah, and Jessica Lange's just coming off of King Kong and all that jazz.
Too many King Kong movies.
This is my push for let's do Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges.
I mean, it sounds like we should do a Susan Sarandon season where we do all the movies that she didn't get the part of.
He just turned that one on its tail.
I just feel bad. It's every Jack Nicholson movie, Susan Sarandon did not get the role. It's kind of wild.
Can I tell you? Let me give you the budget.
Yeah.
This movie had a $12 million budget.
All right.
That seems like a lot for the 1981 for this movie. It's got two sets.
Yeah, but you've got this big star and stunts. Like the 46 version avoids a lot of stunt work. It's a very stage-like thing. They get creative in how they're not allowed to show violence or sexy things, obviously. But they get creative in how they kind of duck out of it, but still make you realize it's happening. So not throwing shade on them. It just was what they had to deal with at the time.
Well, this movie made $44 million.
The original movie, very big success. The book, runaway success. You'd like the remake to be a lot more successful, but, that's making people money. There's a profit there. The cinematographer here is our old pal, Sven Nykvist, of Something to Talk About fame.
Something to Talk About? Is that the only one? What?
We might have done an earlier Jack Nicholson one where he did it, when Sven was starting out, but Something to Talk About is obviously his most famous film.
In the same year, in 1973, he did Cries and Whispers and Scenes from a Marriage. He's Ingmar Bergman's guy.
Yeah.
Crimes and Misdemeanors, Sleepless in Seattle. He works with Woody Allen a lot. Oh, he did The Sacrifice.
Well, yeah. Tarkovsky's in Ingmar Bergman's land at that point. You get all the great talents from there.
Did you like it? Did you like this?
I didn't hate it, but like I said, it's too busy. This is, despite it being Jack Nicholson and Bob Rafelson, this feels very Hollywoody. It's a stronger emphasis on plot than characters. There are a lot of interesting ways to make this movie. You really wanted to do the novel, and you did the novel very faithfully, and I think that's bad to do when you're a movie, because you're not a novel. Don't try to be a novel. Don't do it.
The film was screened out of competition at the 1981 Cannes Film Festival. Upon release, the film was poorly received by many critics who felt that the remake of the 1946 film of the same name was wasted. They also believed the ending was very weak compared to the original film, which is probably why I forgot it. Very weak? Come on.
It's not. It's not weak compared to the film. Not at all. I would say wasted, though, is fair because it basically is the same movie. It just doesn't have the restrictions of the 40s film. So the violence comes across a lot more potently, which I think is helpful for making the movie darker, while at the same time the characters are a little less Machiavellian. They do feel like they're in over their head a lot of times, and they're kind of, I don't know, the characters are a little more interesting here. It's got a lot more modern sensibilities to it, but it basically is the same film, and you didn't really do anything differently, say anything differently with it, so I don't know why you bothered. It's not like shot-for-shot color remake of Psycho, but it doesn't feel different enough. I actually think the ending of the original film is dumb. So the book is narrated by the guy, and he's like writing it as he's on death row for the death of Cora. They got him, they said it wasn't an accident, and they did it on purpose, so they're going to kill him. In the movie, he's like saying it to a priest, and he's like, will Cora forgive me? Do you think she knows it was an accident? He's like, oh, I don't know. This sounds way out there. The lawyer comes in, and the bad guy lawyer, the one that wants him dead, comes in, and he's like, aha, we got you finally. The main character's like, you're right. The postman, he did always ring twice. And then the movie's over. And I go, shut the fuck up.
Jesus Christ. Fuck that. So they also criticize that the meaning of the title is not explained in the remake, which led to confusion among viewers.
Well, I may say two things to that. One, good, because when they overly explained it in the first film,
Yeah,
I went,
exactly
this
what you
is
just said.
stupid. This just sounds like a thing nobody would ever say. Two,
Yeah,
shut the fuck up. You're a remake of a highly successful film. It doesn't matter if your title you're already in the cultural lexicon.
that's very funny.
Jesus Christ. What does the movie mean? Ugh. The movie's got one level, everybody. It's there. What you see is what you get. There's no confusion. Who cares what the title is? There's no confusion. It's based off a book called The Postman Always Rings Twice. What do you give a shit? 50 Shades of Grey doesn't have 50 shades in it. Just a guy named whatever, John Gray, or who cares? I presume. I actually don't know.
I'd never seen those movies.
I was going to say Dorian Gray, and I go, no, that's a different novel.
What was it? So, Jack Nicholson later said, if you ran a question through this industry about the postman always rings twice, most people were surprised that it wasn't successful. That is not true. I know it made money because I received overages, so it must have grossed about as much as Chinatown and much more than Carnal Knowledge. But people are anxious to disqualify it.
Well, the movie, based on just the numbers you gave me, was successful. I'm not taking that away from the movie. But I do, having watched both, go, why did you bother, Bob? I mean, what did you just did the movie again. You just did it again. Like, what, you went at it from no, Bob is like a guy, I'd be like, he likes film. He probably was like, sweet, I get to work with Sven. This is awesome. I love Bergman. And you're just going to give me this? You're going to give me the same movie again? Why?
Patrick,
What?
we are only not going to cover 4 of his movies. Otherwise, we will have done the whole filmography of Bob Rafelson by the end of this miniseries.
Oh, no. Poor Bob.
One of these is called Stay Hungry. It's the movie he did between this movie and The King of Marvin Gardens.
He only did one? Oof.
Yeah, just one in between those two.
Meanwhile, Jack's done like 80.
Well, not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I got for this one.
All right, let's do some Young Rock then.
My name is Kid Rock.
All right, we have season 3, episode 11. The Rock must know his show's in trouble because it's airing on Saturday nights.
Ooh, that's a dead zone.
Yeah, sitcom's favorite place to be. Saturday evening, when people are out enjoying themselves.
I mean, who watches live TV anymore?
I mean, it started off the season on a Friday night, which isn't much better. Not ideal. Well, anyway, The Rock has to leave the made-up country without the coffee trade deal. He feels bad. Meanwhile, Randall Park's like, hey, you don't have any international negotiating experience, so don't feel terrible about it. And The Rock's like, but I do. It reminds me of when I first started acting, and then we get into this story. Is SmackDown named after The Rock's many catchphrases?
Yeah, he used to say he'd lay the smackdown on people.
Okay,
so they
well-
were like, hey, let's... And then it got added into the dictionary. Smackdown is now into the...
Well, Vince McMahon's like, hey, we want to cross-pollinate. Since wrestling's getting pretty big, we're going to put actors into a lot of other things. And you seem like an obvious choice because you're so big and famous. We even named SmackDown after whatever, the thing he says. And The Rock's like, okay, what am I doing? And Vince McMahon's like, well, that very popular Sandra Bullock movie, The Net? It's getting a TV show, and we're going to put you in that for an episode. And The Rock's like, will I get to meet Sandra Bullock? And Vince McMahon's like, sure. Which, of course, she wasn't in there, so...
Yeah, that's not how it works.
So he's in this episode of The Net, and he's playing a wrestler. The show makes a bunch of jokes about how The Net show makes no sense, which is true, but, whatever. It feels like low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Then they're like, now you're going to do Star Trek Voyager, where you're going to play a wrestling alien.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
A lot of this show, this episode, is spent with The Rock being in obviously terrible shows, but The Rock working his butt off to be good at these parts where he has 3 lines.
Yeah.
And the actress is so impressed. It's like, wow, I just appreciate you coming in and giving a shit. A lot of actors wouldn't do this. You're way better than when Andy Dick was on.
Andy Dick?
That was probably true, but...
Did they name drop Andy Dick?
They did, yeah. Then he was in That 70s Show playing not only a wrestler, but his own father.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's so successful at doing that, Lorne Michaels calls him to come host SNL. And they stop right before he's about to do the episode. But he says, he lays down his terms. He says, Lorne, I want to do it, but I'm not playing a wrestler in any of the skits. And Lorne's like, yeah, fine, whatever.
We're not going to make a fucking wrestling ring. It's a skit show.
And yeah, Randall Parks is jealous that The Rock got to be on SNL despite not being a comedian at all. But then from that story, The Rock realizes from his conversation with Lorne Michaels, it's time. I figured out how to save the trade deal. And then the episode's over.
They are running low on Rock stories already.
Well, it felt like they skipped a bunch of, like, season 1, I felt like he could have done more in that time period, but they're like, he's already out of college. And I went, oh, already? You had like 3 episodes where he was in college. I mean, it sounded like he had all these stories. I got 3? And then when he did the football, we had like 1 episode. 1 episode's when he was in the CFL. Bastards.
You're in 2001 territory already if The Rock's on SNL, which means his wrestling career is almost over. He's got like 6 months left. The thing is, he's been a movie star for about maybe a decade and a half longer than he wrestled for.
Yeah, I bet we're getting Walking Tall next season.
God,
Walking Tall and the Christopher Walken movie. What was that one? The Rundown?
The Rundown.
Yeah. If I'm lucky, Lord knows I'm not, we will get Southland Tales in an episode somehow, some
I want to
way.
make sure we're on the same page with this one.
Yeah.
If you were given an option where you could only watch one movie, but you had to watch the movie, only could watch one movie. If it was The Rundown or Walking Tall, what would you choose?
The Rundown.
And we could put Walking Tall on because it is very short.
Yeah, that's the one consideration that might pull me towards Walking Tall, but Rundown actually is kind of fun sometimes.
It's a fun time. Yeah.
It is. So I don't mind it being a little longer.
Yeah.
That was like a fine action-y movie thing. It was a little fun. I got no beef with The Rundown.
It had a real director behind it. Pete Berg.
Rundown is like one of the top 5 Rock films I have, which doesn't speak well for The Rock, but, you know.
He started up with his career with like working with real auteurs like Stephen Sommers, Pete Berg.
All right, let's not throw around the A word too much, shall we? All right, well, you want to get into the real Rock news this week?
Oh, there's real Rock news?
Yeah. Welcome to Football Round the World. Football Round the World.
Oh, boy.
Well, you may remember The Rock bought the XFL, which is why we began The Rock season in our season 2. It revived our podcast. We were not going to do it, and then we've been going ever since. Well, finally,
that's what. Wow,
despite having done 170-something episodes of the podcast, we've gotten like no XFL since The Rock bought it. Finally, the XFL is back. And, of course, The Rock...
You're so excited.
Of course, The Rock had to do his big, stupid promo thing at the beginning. And, you know, he's like, we were told that the dream was over, but here's the truth. The dream is just beginning. And because what you're going to do, you're going to come out to the field and you're going to line up and you're going to show the world what it's like to be hungry with that chip on your shoulder. You know, and The Rock's like, I had this chip and I was hungry and I know what it's like to be you guys and blah, blah, blah. And he's doing all the thing. And he's also in the promo with his ex-wife, Danny Garcia, who's the chairwoman of the XFL. And again, I think, does The Rock's wife find this at all weird or uncomfortable?
He works so close with his ex-wife.
He works so closely all the time, and that she's prominently featured in his sitcom, and she's such an important character there, too, and he always talks about how great she is. Is that...
I don't know, but you know what?
What?
That is the woman that gave The Rock his first a child, you know? So
That was my follow-up question. Are any of the children hers? And the answer is one.
one, and guess what? She's a wrestler now.
What?
Yeah, she's already like.
So The Rock's too old to
wrestling.
wrestle, but Danny is not. Oh no, the daughter is the wrestler. Yeah,
The
we talked about
daughter's
that.
wrestling.
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
that. That was a Rock watch a while ago.
Okay.
So what's crazy is The Rock bought and all the other Danny Garcia and Redbird Capital. They bought it for $15 million, which is wild because Vince McMahon probably sunk $100 million into it. The Rock just said, I will give you a quarter of what I earned from San Andreas for this team. And Vince is like, fine, whatever.
So I'm looking right now. So she was married to Dwayne for 11 years from 97 to 2008. And then she remarried Dave Rienzi in 2014. And she's only had one child, and that's with The Rock. It's weird that she's only produced movies that he's done in the last, 3 years. The last few movies that she's done are Fighting with My Family from 2019, Jumanji: The Next Level 2019, Jungle Cruise 2021, Red Notice 2021, DC League of Super Pets 2022, and Black Adam.
This reminds me of John Travolta's lawyer that is a producer on all of his films. When all he did to get the producing credit was be John Travolta's attorney.
Wow.
You don't get John Travolta in your film unless he gets a producing credit. And so I wonder if The Rock just got to the point in Hollywood where he could be like, hey, Danny's my producer.
Well.
And she may not be doing any real producing. I don't know. But just by
it's just a
nature of
title.
her The Rock's got so
Yeah.
much cachet now, he could just be like, yep, she's producing. Well, anyway, back to the importance of the XFL.
Yes, the XFL.
The team that I've picked to root for, the St. Louis Battlehawks. I know what you're thinking. Well, they're not from the East Coast or the West Coast. Yeah, there's no LA or Boston team. So we picked a team with a cool logo. St. Louis Battlehawks. Well, they looked terrible for 58 minutes of the game. Just atrocious.
Wait, the game has already happened?
Yeah, the game happened on Sunday.
Oh, okay, so...
The St. Louis Battlehawks played the Antonio Brahmas. Joe, the Brahmas. You listening to this?
Brahma Bulls.
In a league owned by The Rock, there's a team called the Brahmas. Just want to make sure
Yeah.
that's coming across to you, wrestling fans.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
So they played the Brahmas. They looked terrible for 58 minutes. And then somehow, in the last 2 minutes, they scored 2 touchdowns and won the game. It was wild.
It sounds like these people don't know how to play football. What's the defense like?
The defense kept them in it. That's how you can win with 2 touchdowns. Yeah. Defense kept them in it. Kicking game was mediocre, much like in the European League. No, in the European League, it's actually just bad. It's really bad. Here, it was fine, not great.
About the other teams, though, I got the Renegades, the Arlington Renegades,
Yep.
the DC Defenders, the Houston Roughnecks, the Orlando Guardians, the San Antonio Brahmas, the Seattle Sea Dragons. Seattle Sea Dragons! They gave up real hard.
They were not a team when the league first started. I probably would have picked them had they been. But it's too late now. I have the hat. I'm hooked to the Battlehawks. It's caw law now that I have to be a Battlehawks fan.
Yep, 18-15.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. But anyway, I'm glad you brought up the DC Defenders because that was the real story in the XFL this week.
DC Defenders.
The DC Defenders, when, they had their half season before COVID ruined it, fans had a tradition, the beer snake. Listeners, if you don't know what a beer snake is, it's a bunch of rowdy drunks in an audience have their
Sounds
cups.
awful.
They're like solo cups of beer. When they finish it, they stack all the cups together. And when you get hundreds of cups stacked together, you got a beer snake that travels throughout the stadium. Well, the beer snake was the good luck charm during the DC Defenders' previous season. So in this season, in the first game, they obviously brought it back. And then security came and took it away. And immediately, they throw an interception because you took away the good luck charm. Well, the fans were so angry about this, they started throwing lemons onto the field in protest.
They had lemons just...
I have no idea where all the lemons came from. But they had plenty of them and kept throwing them, and everybody kept chanting, "Free the Snake," and hashtag "Free the Snake" was trending on social media and so on. Security never gave back the beer snake, and I believe the Defenders lost.
Oh.
There's some football around the world for y'all.
Football round
the
world.
All right, Joe, let's do our last look, shall we?
Last looks, Jack. If you're getting a little frisky, you don't have to always be on camera to be frisky. Take it behind the scenes, buddy. He gets frisky.
Yeah, he does.
Frisky.
Yeah,
He's
I know.
a little.
That's why I made the Labor Day talk.
Yeah, but it's just like there's not much to this movie.
That's the problem when you have a plot movie.
But like, there's a couple of shots and I'm like, wow. But yeah, Jack, chill out.
It's not a
Yeah.
bad role. There's a lot of meat to it. Like I
that's
said,
fine.
it's kind of Oscar baity. It's a remake of this very classic, popular film.
Yeah, it's Oscar baity in the sense that it got no look for the Oscars.
Well, nobody seemed to like it, which is fair because it didn't do anything.
It's nothing. It's
your
nothing.
friend Bob Rafelson. You came up with him. You both probably were fans of the old film and you wanted to get to do your own spin on it. Like, I get it, but you've got the music biopic problem. You're just trying to do way too much. Pick a little thing and just really get in on that one. And don't adapt your novels too faithfully because they work as a novel because it's interacting with a different part of your brain than the rest of you, or than what you use to interact with a film. So you shouldn't be trying to be very faithful in your adaptations. There you go. There's my last looks. All right. Well, I have to thank Goo. I'm not super certain what they do or where you can get it.
Goo.
But thank you, Goo, for sponsoring this episode. And I'd like to thank Lev Van Rensselaer for minding those audio boards and keeping the sound so slippery smooth. And I'd like to thank my co-host, Joe Beckman, for stopping by.
Oh, thank you.
And I am your host, Patrick Skeyhill. You can find my features, documentaries, short films, video essays, animations, behind-the-scenes footage, and so much more at QuixoticUnited.com and social media, presumably with a similar-sounding name. Thank you all for listening. Joe, say goodnight.
Good night. Wow, what a fact. Can I just give you this one? This one's not even a fact. This is stupid. Ready for this?
Yeah.
In the opening scene, Jack Nicholson's character asked for a side order of toast, as he did in the diner scene of 5 Easy Pieces, which was made with the same director. That's not there's nothing to that.
I mean, it's technically a fact that it happens.
There's no interestingness to it.
I have finished Becker, Joe.
Oh, good for you.
And I am well into The New Adventures of Old Christine. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
underappreciated show.
Yeah, you were singing its praises last time.
New Adventures of Old Christine, hilarious. Laugh out loud funny, I would even say. And very strong cast. All good.
Yeah, and you would think that she would have been fine with all the money she had from, Seinfeld and her 3 other, Emmy Award-winning TV roles. But then she's like, nah, I still want to collect some more paper. Let me be in those MCU movies, and let me really drag it down whenever I come by and, really ruin the entire movie.
Listen, I can't speak to much of that. Because I only ever saw her in Black Panther 2 when I was surprised. I'm like, why is she in here? And why does she have this
She's
stupid
so
streak in her hair?
Fucking awful in that movie.
Yeah, it's not her best. But if Marvel's going to throw a bunch of money at her, fine. I don't blame
sure,
her.
why?
If Marvel's going to not have any idea how to use her, fine. Because she's killing it in this show. Her face, her body language, the physical comedy that has to be done, she can just do it all. She gets to do none of that in the MCU.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know
suck.
anything about the comics. My best guess is, does she just look like the character? And they were like, all right.
I don't think so. I think they're like, wow, we just roped in another big Emmy winner, Oscar winner, whenever they can say
Yeah,
they
that's
get
the other.
awards.
Wouldn't
they're
they
like,
want
yeah.
a movie? No offense to Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Why weren't they like, let's get a movie person?
Well, the thing is, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it is more TV than it is movie.
I mean, I know that. They don't seem to realize that.
I think they've been pulling...
Did her character get started in a TV show?
I think so, actually.
Well, then now it's coming together, isn't it?
But, Why be in the movies if she's in the TV show then?
Well, apparently
That part of the movie in Black Panther is so pointless. It does not need to be in there. It really just drags the movie down so much. And you're like, why are we here?
Yeah,
Why
I
are
was
we
very
here?
confused.
In a long movie already. It's 3 hours.
Yeah, I was confused, but then when she came in, everybody did the soap opera thing of like, and, you know,
Really?
so I'm like, oh, I guess this character has been in stuff before. Seems important, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then, like you, I was also confused why she was in the movie, and then I forget what she does, but she does something mean to Martin Freeman, and then, like, that problem's just solved by the end of the film off screen. And then, all right, I just assumed it was setting something dumb up in another movie or show, but, like, what do I care?
So I'm going to ask you, did you watch the other English language version of this movie before you watched this one, or after you watched this one?
Yes.
Of course you did.
Of course I did.
I meant to, and then I was like, I have other things I'd rather watch because I really didn't like this movie in the first place.
Well, no spoilers, Joe. My goodness.
No, we're not spoiling. We're into it. We're into it, baby.
You just spoiled it. I haven't even begun the show yet. Just talking about how great New Christine is, and Clark Gregg, and Hamish Linklater, and Wanda Sykes. I'm already into season 2.
Wow.
Rolling through it.
You are. I don't know. You tell me that I.
Show's a delight.
And how many episodes? 22? Or are we talking
And
13?
season 2 is a full season.
Season 1.
Season 1 was
13?
like the mid-season replacement show. Why you wouldn't believe in this,
okay.
I don't get it. Show's hilarious. I don't know what they aired before it. I imagine it was bad. Then season 3 is the writer's strike season. So it's like 10 episodes.
Oh.
The show only has 88 episodes despite being on for 5 years. So I think season 4 and 5 are full seasons, and I'm imagining it only got season 5 so that they could hit that 88 and do syndication, which I don't think it's ever done, which is sad. Because the show's very funny.
I think it's on like TV Land. Do you ever watch TV Land?
Of course I watched TV Land. I don't have TV Land anymore, but I certainly watched it quite a bit back in the day. Those were all the shows I liked. That's where they were.
Yeah, like I Dream of Jeannie.
Yep.
Gilligan's Island.
Yep.
I have to say this one because it's stuck in my head. Bewitched, because I also watched that one. I watched a lot of the ones where like the women have magical powers over the men, and they're like supposed to be like a housewife or whatever.
Yeah, so, you know, the 50s sitcoms kind of getting their groove of just like, look, a family, and, you know, Leave It to Beaver, my 3 sons, you know, just like, they're just a family doing regular things. And then in the 60s was like, what if we did a twist on that? What if one of them was a genie and one of them, the wife was a witch? Or what if they were all Munsters? Or what if they were all hillbillies? You know, so everything got kind of kooky.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the reaction to the 50s. And the reaction to that in the 70s was, wow, this got really silly. Let's make it a regular family again, but also talk about real-world problems and be allowed to show bathrooms and them sleeping in the same bed.
Ah, yes. Yes.
And then the reaction to that in the 80s was, wow, this got too real. What if we sugarcoat everything and make everybody believe that the 50s is back again in this Reagan era we're in? Good old-fashioned American values have returned.
Huh.
And the reaction to that in the 90s was, what if we just had a bunch of people being friends and also they were young and sexy and good for selling clothes?
And how do they afford these giant apartments?
Yeah. We're still sugarcoating everything, making all these economic impossibilities. But my goodness, do they look good doing it?
You know, I wish they, with the actual like salaries of the people who were on Friends, like the people that like what their working salaries were, like as the not actors, but as like the people in the show, what their apartments would have looked like in New York at that time.
Well, there is, you know, Chandler seems to do some nondescript important business work.
Yeah, he's got a business job.
I bet he makes a lot of money. I don't know what a chef makes or an archaeologist make. I feel like if you're at a big...
their jobs are so weird.
I figure if you're at a big important restaurant, maybe you could make some pretty nice bucks, but Rachel's like a waitress for like the whole time or just some of the time?
For like 4 seasons.
So like she's mooching off of Courtney.
Monica. You couldn't remember her name.
Courtney Cox Arquette. And then Joey's mooching off of Chandler, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe Ross can afford his own place. It seems of all the people, he's the one
He's got it together.
Doesn't need a roommate at all. I have no idea what Phoebe does for a living.
He's a professor by like the end of the series. He's teaching.
I mean, you could do both, right? That's when you're a professor.
That's where he
you're
meets
often
like his
a working
student for a season.
Professional, like that. That's just the way it goes a lot. That's kind of the people they want teaching is people who have the experience. So maybe he does both. I don't know. I don't know what Phoebe does. I see her sing at the cafe sometimes.
What does Phoebe do?
And she's got her own apartment. So like I really look at that one. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, but we never really get to see hers. Hers is pretty small, I feel like.
We see it sometimes. Like Rachel lived with her for a little bit, I believe. If I remember.
That sounds right.
I'm trying to think now back to circa 1998 to 2004 because I don't think I've watched it much since then.
Wow. I watched it like 10 years ago.
I tried when they put it on Netflix. I'm like, let me go back and watch it.
That's when I watched
and
it.
I was like, no, I'm not. I put on my favorite episode and then I said, I'm not doing this again.
What's your favorite episode? Do you have a favorite?
It's the one where Ross has like some dinner, some gala event, and everybody's it's like a bottle episode. Everybody's getting ready for it.
Yeah, that's a great episode. Yeah, and then Joey comes with all the clothes on.
Yeah, he wears all the clothes.
He's like,
does the opposite.
Yeah.
But I don't know, just wasn't amusing. Didn't enjoy it, so I didn't bother going to watch the rest of it again.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I'm not sad. I'm okay. I got Frasier.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be fine. It didn't really seem like your vibes
Becker,
anyways.
Ended the same year as both those shows.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
The new Christine started a year later. Like, it was fine. The Class started a year later. It was fine.
The guy from the Class. He's a big
I love
star
it when
now.
a guy from the Class shows up in our movie. Didn't happen this week. Surprise, surprise.
Well, I think they were all
This
being
movie
born
from 20 years before the Class aired.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into this one.